I'd like to introduce you to Cécile Huet from the European Commission.
Hello, thank you, Barry. Welcome everybody. So we co-organized this workshop together with Barry to help you and provide you information about the activities in Europe about AI. So Barry, being a representative of EurAI, has helped a lot also in helping us during the preparation. So the goal of this session is to present you the strategy we have developed for AI, and then also present the different activities. So Barry will mention also what is done in EurAI, other workshops we have organized together, and also the high-level group we have selected to help us in the strategy. So as a member of that, he will explain you a bit his experience in that. And then we will have two presentations from our public-private partnership related to AI. So one on big data and one in robotics, which have a big stake in AI. So they will have a chance to explain the service they offer to the community and how to interact with you. So thank you, Barry. I will first start with a presentation. It will maybe be a bit long, but we have many things to report to you and to inform you about. So I'll try to be as interesting and concise as possible, but there is quite a lot of information. So I'm working at the Commission in, so our unit is robotics and AI. So we've been funding robotics and AI for, we created the unit in 2004, so for a number of years now. And so until quite recently, we were focusing on funding, but now we are also developing policy for AI, and this is the content of my talk. So I will present the AI strategy for Europe we came up with, and then I will talk about the European AI Alliance you've heard about already in the previous panel. And very interesting for you as well is the AI funding in the Horizon 2020 program. So I will mention a few elements which are key for AI and where we expect you to contribute as the scientists, as the community, delivering the result on AI, the science and the technology. So yeah, different aspect of that. And I will also give you a few insight about what we're going to do after Horizon 2020, so our proposal that we are now going to discuss also with the member states, also the Parliament and the Council. So first of all, the strategy of AI, you are part of the community, so how can you be part of it? What are we doing in this strategy? So our goal is to really maximize the benefit from AI, because for sure this will have an economic impact, and we want the economic impact to be also in Europe. We want our economy, our industry, our citizens to benefit from that. So this is one of the goals. And the other aspect is we want our citizens to benefit from all the potential AI can offer in various aspects of our life, be it in the healthcare system, energy efficiency, road safety, cybersecurity. Okay, as expert in the field, I don't have to explain you all the potential benefit AI can bring. But this is quite challenging for Europe. One of the challenges we have is we have strong researchers and engineers, but we have to stay at the forefront of science and technology, and the competition is fierce. So we have to do something about that. Access to data is very important in AI, so also in view of what's happening in other parts of the world, how can we make sure also we provide data to scientists, to engineers, to companies to grow in the field? We want AI to be inclusive, so we don't want to create a split and only the top level scientist or expert can use the technology. We really want to not to create a divide, so we want to be inclusive to make sure that the technology is usable and affordable for everybody. we also know that the labor landscape will change, and we have to adapt to that. We have to assess what are the change and then to anticipate those. And one of the aspects is the skill that we have to develop, both for the developers of the technology, but also for the users, make sure that everyone can use the technology. Acceptance, ethical issues, so people are not always informed, and they are scared about the technology, and there are ethical issues, so what can we do to make sure that these are addressed? And safety and liability issue, the more autonomous the systems are, the more question about, the more risk about safety. How can we handle that? How can we make sure that systems are inherently safe? And then in terms of liability also, we have to understand what is at stake. If a system makes a mistake, who is liable? And our big challenge in Europe is the effort we have are too much scattered. So in view of the international competition where you have those huge centers with huge investment, so how can we compete? Our strengths, as also highlighted in the previous panel, so we have excellent research center, excellent researchers. We find them everywhere in the world. The top labs have European researchers, and we also see international companies having their labs in Europe because they want also to have access to our research. We are very strong in some of the industry, in particular robotics, and so this is one of the strengths of Europe to how can we capitalize on this robotic strengths, which also embed intelligence and AI. So we have to capitalize on this, and how can both robotics and AI benefit from each other. And then we are also strong in B2B domain. So for sure, B2C is, we are less strong, but let's capitalize on what we have and our strengths in B2B. We are also strong in some of the industrial sectors, such as automotive, healthcare, and agri-food, which can benefit greatly from the current state of AI and the future. So how to bring AI in those sectors so that they can grow and become more competitive. And we also have industrial data, public service data, but also industrial data. How can we make them available in a way which also respect our value? So this is why we developed this strategy, because it's, we find it important to join forces at European level, and we have many ingredients. So how to get our act together to make it happen and to make AI for good and for people and for everybody. So we have three pillars on our strategy. We need to address not only the technology, the investment, but so this is the first pillar, really to boost our capacity in technology and science, and also to help the take-up of the technology in any application and businesses and processes. But we also have to address the other aspect, the non-technological aspects, such as the socio-economic change in terms of labor market, how to adapt to it. And finally, we also have to make sure that we have the proper ethical and legal framework for that. So regarding the investment, as also mentioned before, we are really increasing our annual investment by 70% of our annual investment in the coming year. And also our target is to reach beyond 2020. Then in the next decade, we would like to have a 20 billion investment per year in Europe. So we want to mobilize also the private sector and the member states to make the same effort as the one we make, so that together we reach 20 billion per year in Europe. So regarding the second pillar, preparing the socio-economic challenges, socio-economic challenge and the change of the job landscape. So we want to anticipate those changes, see what we can do to get prepared for that. We want also to make effort to make sure that the workforce has the right skill to do it. But it's not only this. From a technology point of view, we have also to make sure that the technology is easy to use. So this is also a research research issue that we have to address. And finally, we have also to, regarding the talents, to create the talents in Europe, give the right skill to the developers, and also make sure that, okay, the bright people stay in Europe, and we have an attractive framework to attract them in Europe. So the third pillar I mentioned is the ethical and legal framework. So we have to make sure that the system, the way they're developed, the way they are used, respect our fundamental value in Europe, and this is one of the strengths of Europe. And in order to do that, first of all, in the legal framework, we're assessing whether the current legal framework is still fit for purpose for, given the evolution of the technology, given that we have more autonomy in systems. So, for instance, the Product Liability Directive is under revision, and to see how, if it's still fit for purpose, the same for Machine Directive and so on. So these are efforts we do in the legal side. In the ethical side, Brussels cannot decide on its own. It's so important to have every stakeholder involved to decide the type of AI we want in Europe in the future. This is why we have created a framework to have a forum involving every stakeholder in this discussion to decide about the future of Europe in AI and the ethical aspect in particular. And for that, we also selected a group of high-level experts, which helps us. They are representative of the community. We had a call for experts, and then we selected them to make sure not only that they are top-level experts, but they are representative of the various type of stakeholder, be it industry, academia, and civil society, but the different sectors are also represented. So this is very important, and they will help us to come up with ethical guidelines by the end of the year, and they will be finalized early next year. And the goal of these guidelines is not to come with again, new principle, but to make some of the most important principles operational for companies to implement them. So that's a work ongoing. Regarding joint forces, we have to join forces at all levels. So it's not only to bring all the stakeholders together, but also bring the different member states together. So, and for that, we have a very strong support from member states. So all the member states and Norway have now signed the declaration of cooperation on AI. So that's very important. And then we work together. And by the end of the year, we also want to have a coordinated plan with the member states to see how we can go ahead in AI. So we will decide on ways member states can cooperate, define common priorities, and so on for the future of AI. So now regarding the European AI Alliance, so as Khalil said before, you are strongly invited to contribute to it. So in order to help us implement the strategy, to define the priority, more fine-grained priorities for the future, the policies, the investment, the ethical aspects. So we want to have a multi-stakeholder forum bringing together all the different types of stakeholders. So we want to have this joint reflection about the future of AI in Europe, and we want to really mobilize the stakeholders. So this is why we're strongly inviting you to join the Alliance and make your voice heard. So it's a way to get your contribution, to have an influence about the future. And then we are supported by this high-level expert group on AI. They will also be an interface between us and the Alliance, because this is a tool they can use also to ask some specific questions, to define the guidelines of ethics, to define the policy for the future, and so on. So in the longer run, we would like to make this European AI Alliance really a reference platform to think, to reflect about the future of AI. So some more information about the Alliance. So here is the address, and you can log into it and register to it. This is very simple. It's open to everybody. You just have to explain, okay, what's your interest in AI, and then you will have access. You will see a bit, this is the way it looks like. And then you see you have different yes, that works. Different parts you have about it, just explaining what it is. You have blog posts you can react to, and this is also where the experts will ask some questions. So they will need to get your opinion about some of the aspects, and this is the way, your way to influence it. There will be a forum, so where everybody can discuss some topics. We have some documents here, which is more the official documents, like the national strategies or official documents like the communication, so you will find them there. An open library where yourself can upload also interesting document which you want to share with the community. Events, so for instance, today's events is listed there, so if you have interesting event to communicate, you can also put it there. AI high-level group, you can see there the 52 experts who have been selected for the high-level group, so, and they will interact as well with you through this platform. And people, these are all the people who registered, and yesterday we reached 1,000 of people on the platform. So that's good to see the interest of people. So that's the platform, and so I hope by tomorrow we will double the number with your participation. Okay, I'm just exaggerating a bit. So now, important for everyone, so maybe people asleep will wake up, we are talking about money. So some of the people before said we need to invest more, so I will try to explain you a bit more concretely what we are funding. So we are displaying those big numbers, but where is it concretely? Where can you find your way of being part of it and getting funded for doing your research? We need you to do the research to achieve the progress we need on AI as well. So a first tool we have, so this is a project, a call we had already in the past, and it's under evaluation, so the result will be published on the 9th of August. This is the European on-demand platform. I will not go into the detail, but the goal of that is to gather under a same big platform, an umbrella, if you wish, integrate all the sources, the resources and the tool we already have in Europe. So many good labs are producing excellent results, but they are scattered again. So the idea here is to have one access point to all the resources. So as a researcher, so we will invite, the project will invite everybody to put their results and link them to the platform, make it available to the platform. And the goal is also to offer solution and support to all potential users of AI, and so that they can use all those resources in their application, product, and services. So it's a tool for the researchers as well to find resources, to find algorithms, to find data, to find compute power, and so on. So this should really be a hub where the AI community join, and it's served by the platform. So this is a bit how it looks like. So we would bring under the platform all the software, the prototypes, the data we already have. We will build on top of that a layer of service, which is extremely important to bridge the gap between the provider of the technology, between the provider of the software, the tools, the robotic component, and so on, and the potential users, because they might not be aware of what the technology can do for them, or not every SME can afford to have an AI expert. So we need this interim layer to have good engineer, good integrator who understand at the same time the offer and the demand from the user. So it must be a both-way direction, because it will also create a demand for new challenges for research and so on. So it's a driver for research, but also an opportunity to exploit the existing research result. So this was the AI on-demand platform. The call has been published. We will fund one big project, 20 million euro project, and this should be the place to be. This should integrate and be a federator of all the research community in Europe. So we hope you will interact with the platform. We will come back to that in the future as well. Another tool we have is Digital Innovation Hub. So I will try to explain you this concept. Some of them call it differently, but this is a concept that our commissioner presented a few years ago. And his goal was to really help every company to help them in their digital transformation. So it's not only targeted to AI, it's any digital technology. How can we help every company to make their digital transformation? So the goal is to have in every region a center, an ecosystem which will help the local economy to benefit from the technology, to benefit from digitization. And so it's very much rooted in regional activity. So it's the local government and authorities have already invested in good competence center and so on. So this builds on that. But we want also really at EU level to help that. And we top up these existing activities with, we committed to spend $500 million on this activity in Horizon 2020. And I will explain a bit more what it is concretely. So a digital innovation hub is typically developed around the competence center, which brings the knowledge from the researcher, from the technologist. It brings also some support in terms of technical support to develop, prototype, integrate technology into products and so on. It offers some infrastructure. It depends on the type of activity you're doing, but you might need some compute power, you might need some robotics, prototyping, some robotics platform to test your technology, and so on. So this is a resource the Digital Innovation Hub brings. Testing facilities, so having also access to user to understand the user needs. Access to finance, it's not only about technology, but the whole business model. So you need access to finance, training to train the potential user of the technology how to use it, and also to make people aware of what the technology can offer, how to use it. Innovation coaching, so again, not only technology, but also developing new business, startups, and so on. So the Digital Innovation Hub is somehow a broker between the users, the suppliers, the investors, so to get, this is what we call the ecosystem. And you build them locally, so it's usually built around this competence center, bringing the local academia, entrepreneurs around, incubators, industry, investors, user community, being citizens, SMEs, local economic actors, and governments. And the goal is, again, to bring them together. And this is a hub, which is a center of a network which brings the complementarity of the different actors. And this happened locally, so you have these local digital innovation hubs, but you cannot have in every region a digital innovation hub expert in all the technology. So this is why they need to develop their local ecosystem, but work with other digital innovation hubs located somewhere else in Europe, so that they complement in terms either on value chain, where you bring a technology which is used somewhere else, but also in terms of technology complementarity. So you might be an expert, a digital innovation hub in robotics, but need some expertise in photonics or in simulation, and then you will work with other ones so that altogether you will bring the necessary elements you need for your local ecosystem. So it's really a local one-stop shop for expertise, complementarity, and specialization. And we have identified, so we have a catalog of the Digital Innovation Hub in Europe. So we have collected, so it's a collection of people having registered to the catalog, so we check whether they're in which category they are, and these are the ones related to AI. So we still need to reassess how far they are or expert they are, because some of them claim to be expert in everything. That's not possible, so we will have to reassess and retune that, but at least we have some important activity in some areas in Europe. So now, to make the link, so this was about digital innovation hubs. So what we fund at European level, it's the networking among the different digital innovation hubs. So this is where we add the European added value, and this is where we put our money, while the local activity is funded locally. And we hope, our goal is to bring our funding in the AI on-demand platform and make it distributed via the network of digital innovation hubs. So there will be a need to close collaboration between the digital innovation hubs and the AI on-demand platform. So we have this kind of toolbox. The AI on-demand platform is the central toolbox, if I wish, but it's not necessarily a central physical location, but it means that it's a one-stop shop to get access to the technology. And then we have also the network of the digital innovation hub. It's the distribution channel in every region. So now, how about the future call? So what I try to do here, and it's to give you a bit more concrete information, where you're working in AI, where can you apply for funding. So as I said, we will increase our, as of this year, our investment in AI by 70% per year. And we have already identified in the strategy some of the areas we want to focus on. So we continue to fund basic and industrial research, either technology per se, or used in some of our societal challenges as we identify them, so health, transport, agriculture, manufacturing, and so on. In addition, we have this AI on-demand platform. So an initial funding will happen this year. The project should start early next year. But there will be another funding round in 2020 for this. The Digital Innovation Hub network. So we have already we're going to fund for 64 million euro this year, Digital Innovation Hub in robotics, but they will be later called as well relevant for AI, such as in big data. But we want to identify already, even if we don't fund them, the digital innovation hubs related to AI existing in Europe. And then we also want to invest in strengthening AI excellence centers. So this is another activity which will come in 2020. And regarding data, we want to also invest in making data available. So we want to create an industrial data platform. So what I've tried to do is to extract from all the programs we have at the Commission, so we have big pillars. So we have a scientific part, which is open to all the type of domain, scientific domain being AI, but it's also open to biology and material science and so on. So we have an open part. We also have a second pillar, which is more targeted to technology. So it's really pushing the technology. And the third pillar is about societal challenge. So it's more application driven to solve some societal challenge. And the second pillar is light, so leadership in enabling technology. And this is where I showed there the highest share of money go in the first one, so more than 45% of the budget invested in AI. It's in this pillar. So this enabling technology. So we still invest in developing the technology. So for that we fund either research and innovation projects or more application-driven, so innovation project, we call them. And then the second most important part where we are funding AI is actually the open part. And here it's an extrapolation of what we have been funding in the open part in the past. So being excellence in science via the ERC, so European Research Council, being SME projects, so these are called targeted for SMEs, and so on. So if we extrapolate what we've been funding in the past in AI in those open call, and I don't think it will go lower given the importance we have in AI, so we will have quite a lot of funding in this open part. So look at this part. And then we go to societal challenge. So in transport, we are also funding autonomous driving and so on. So there is some money there. NMBP, I will come back to that. It's material science, manufacturing, and so on. Healthcare. we are also spending quite a bit of money in healthcare, space research, fed future and emerging technology. So this is yes, specific also to more research activities, food, medicine, climate security, and so on. So I'll go very quickly now to the most important call. So what I've done here, I went through the whole work program and extracted the title which are relevant for where there is a component on AI. And I highlighted here the call open in 2019. So these are the call open in the coming year. And so that, I mean, I will give you access to all the presentation is quite long, but at least I highlighted the keywords you can relate to. And I asked all the colleagues in the different services to provide a bit more information about each of these topics. It's not complete yet, but you have a fair bit of information already about that. And we have what we call a participant portal. And if you go in this portal, you will find more information about that call. I did not give information about the calls mentioned 2020 because this will be the final text nor budget have not been decided yet, and this information will be made available early next year. So that's something to come after. But at least already now, you can see how you can get prepared for the coming call in the coming year. So we have activities in manufacturing, in robotics, 2 calls on robotics, one more applied, one more research-oriented. We have activities in high-performance computing and big data, doing large-scale test bed. We also have here on data as well, data market and data economy, extreme-scale demonstrator, again, linked to data and high-performance computing. And we also have activities in next generation of internet. So some of these calls are not specific to AI, but have a big share on AI. So it's to some degree, different calls have different focus or different share on AI. The same thing now, it's in digital technology. One of our sub-heading is digital technology. This is where we fund, for instance, Digital Innovation Hub. And here we have, again, a focus on manufacturing again, agriculture is an important topic, smart home and smart grid. We also have big data for energy. So these are, if you're working on these areas, have a closer look to the calls. In healthcare now, so this is more applied research in the context of the societal challenge healthcare. And here we have different also foci in the research, so monitoring aspect after cancer treatment, health and care, and personalized healthcare is very important. And here smart and healthy living at home, so how can the technology help people to stay longer independent at home? And also the active and assisted living program has some activity related to AI. In terms of transport, I mentioned some of the activity we do. So again, here, an automated vehicle, either human-centered or in urban environment. Transport, we also do freight by water, so multimodal also transport. We have drones, we have logistics, interconnected transport. In food processing, we also have aquaculture, agri-food, food and agriculture are key topics also, where AI can add value. Space, we also have those big data coming from space, so how can we foster also use AI in this domain. And this one is the one I mentioned before about material science, about advanced manufacturing. And again, here, AI can play a role either in handling flexible materials, so it's closer to robotics again, cognitive production plans, and also characterization of materials based on modeling and using AI. So in climate, Earth observation, use for mining, and well-being in health and city. These are things called this year. Security, either physical security, where we monitor border and external security, but also cybercrime and terrorism are also more on the cyber, on the software side. Inclusive society, it is here to see how AI can be used in public services or also help in policy making. So it's not only to deliver better services to citizens, but also to see how big data, for instance, can be used for policy making. So these are, again, some activities. Now it's more, again, on the physical side. So in we have what we call joint undertaking, is a kind of a public-private partnership as well. And so we have different ones with different foci. One of them is on electronic component, and there is a clear also interest for AI in this domain. And also we have a joint undertaking in innovative medicine initiative. And again, as you know, AI can definitely play an interesting role there and a contribution. We are also working on HPC, so high performance computing. So we are developing an infrastructure there which can be also used for AI for sure. So future and emerging technology, we have some part of it which are open and some part of it which are targeted, so you can look more into the detail of that. Other open scheme, I mentioned European Research Council. This is a very selective, really high-level research and very top-level scientists you have there, so you can look as an individual or as a group of researchers there. SME instruments, if you're an SME, there are different stages of funding you can also benefit from, and Marie Curie, it's more for the PhD student to collaborate with the other. So what you will see in the next slide, which is a long set of slides, it's more detail about each of those topics. So I will not go through them, but you will have access to the slides. And so now I go back to, oops, this. So that was the last type of, so you see in ERC there is 1.9 billion euro a year in ERC. So there is a lot of money there. It's extremely selective because you are compared to any kind of other science, but it's worth trying, and top-level scientists, we have top-level scientists funded through this system, and there are different sub-schemes, but if you're interested, I let you go into more detail. No, so that's for the coming call, so we will have those different types of instruments, so research and innovation plus the platform plus the digital innovation hubs. These are the main type of project. And after, so what are we going to do after Horizon 2020? So we have what we call the next multi-annual financial framework. We have a proposal, and I will tell you a bit more what we have in that proposal so that you can also see the longer term vision and how you can be prepared for that. So we have highlighted here what are the digital aspects in the future program, so in our proposal. So we have two parts. So one is the normal, if you want the direct continuation of Horizon 2020, this is called digital, the Horizon Europe program, where we will still continue funding research and innovation similar to what we do, plus some innovation as well, like access to finance and so on. And the digital part in this big pillar is 100 billion euro. And 15 billion go directly to this pillar here, Global Challenge on Digital and Industry Cluster. So this is 15 billion euro. And within that, AI and robotics is an important pillar. So this is where this AI and robotics lies in the Horizon Europe. Now there is a new program where we have proposed a new program called Digital Europe. And the goal of that program is to build our capacity, to fund a strong capacity here in key technologies such as HPC, AI, and cybersecurity. So these are the three priority we put in the program. So capacity building and deployment. So this is really the focus. It's a more advanced, more closer to deployment, but this is very important to fund these areas. They were identified for priority. And underlying those, there are two activities. One is about advance digital skills, and the digital skills will address those 3 technologies. So we want to help skilling, given the right skill to the people in these 3 in technology. And the last one, it's really the deployment. So this is where we will fund the similar type of activity we do in digital innovation hubs. And this will also help in bringing the technology to the administration, to the public sector. So this is, in a nutshell, the future program. And more specifically, in terms of funding, so you see HPC 2.7 billion, AI 2.5 billion we will have here, and cybersecurity here. So these are the 3 technology and underlying effort in skills, 700 million, and digital transformation and interoperability. This is about deployment. So this is, in a nutshell, our proposal for the Digital Europe program, building the capacity and making deployment happening. So more into the detail, what we want to do in the AI part, we see 3 big pillars. One is really, so going along the continuation of the AI on-demand platform, here it's to give access and to data and algorithms. So all the resources we are embedding in our AI on-demand platform, here it's more geared towards deployment. So they have to be probably more advanced than what we have we will have at the beginning on the AI on-demand platform. So it's less targeted to researchers, but more to provide tools to people who will deploy the technology. But we want to have still continue this part of the repository under the Digital Europe program. And then we also have to bring the power of AI to business and public administration. This will be done in collaboration also with Digital Innovation Hub. And we want to have a very strong testing and experimentation facility, so reference centers. It does not have to be hundreds of them, but few big centers connected together, working together to really help in the deployment. So making the large-scale testing which are needed before we can deploy. And once there would be those specialized centers, and once the technology will be developed and will be fully tested, then they can be deployed to everybody. So the goal here is not to repeat the same testing everywhere in Europe, but to have those specialized and more advanced reference center which can fully test the technology, and then when they will have an expertise and they will have to share it to all the other potential users in the future. So that's the Digital Europe program, and as I said, there will be strong interaction with the skills part. So the arrow, you were right, Rainer, they should go in both directions, and the same here is this deployment part of the Digital Europe program. So this is all for me. Thank you for your attention. We will take question after the session, but now I will invite Barry to come and present his activity in Europe. Here it is. Yes, sorry. EurAI, and then strategy, and this is it.
Okay, I won't take very much time. I just want to give you a sense of what EurAI has been doing with Cécile and the others at DG Connect over the last few months. So first of all, most of you know what EurAI is, but for those of you who don't, it's one of the largest AI associations in the world. It's an association of associations, so there are national associations that are members of EurAI. And I suppose if you express it in terms of the number of members who are number of individuals who have a membership of EurAI through their national association, there are about 4,500 members across 30 countries. One of the things that Cécile mentioned was this high-level expert group. So a number of us, or a number of EurAI people are on that. So Francesca Rossi, who's here, is a member. I'm a member. Virginia Dignam, who was here earlier, is a member. And there are 2 things that this group is doing. It's basically interacting with this AI alliance that Cécile mentioned. and it is creating the set of ethical guidelines, and it's deciding on the funding policy for Europe in the sort of post-H 2020 scenario. So I suppose we're very open to hearing what people think about this sort of thing. The group is really sort of steering that AI alliance rather than sort of being executive in a sense. So Cécile mentioned this AI alliance, which you've already heard of. So I'll just move along. I suppose in January, EurAI started working. Last September we started working with the European Commission, trying to introduce, I suppose, what EurAI was doing, what the member organizations were about, what opportunities there were for EurAI to collaborate with the Commission. And so one of the things we did was establish a workshop in January of 2018, where we invited all of the member associations, a member state representative of government and a representative member from industry. So there was essentially a sort of a tripartite approach to this. And so the purpose of this was really for the presidents or chair people of the associations to come and tell the Commission what they were doing, what was happening in AI in their own country. So what was their national conference all about? Was there a national strategy in AI? And it was pretty well attended. So I'll speak to that, and I'll actually give you a sense of what came out of that. So that was in January. In March, you might have come across this document, The Age of Artificial Intelligence, and this is a document that was published that sort of sets out, I suppose, the initial part of the EU strategy on human-centered AI. In April, you might have seen a thing called the European Commission communication on AI. If you haven't read this, I'd encourage you to do so. This is a document that pretty much sets out what the Commission are going to be doing in artificial intelligence. And so, very, very big numbers of things that in terms of investment and research and so on. And I think one of the things we've tried to do in EurAI is make sure that we're at the table with the Commission, and so we are meeting very regularly, and in fact probably in weekly communication with them now, which is great for the association. So just going back to this report that we worked on, or this workshop, so this will give you a sense of the countries that participated. So not every country ended up sending a representative, but that's okay. This is not meant to be it's an official document, but it's not meant to be a complete document. So if those things are missing from it, we can certainly add to it. And so a few things that came out of this that were interesting. I just want to give you a sense of what the outcome of this meeting was. So first of all, I suppose we looked at, the industry and governmental people were very interested in what's happening in terms of startups, and so we brought in a company called Asgard from Germany to give us a briefing in terms of what's going on in terms of startups. And I suppose, as I said in the panel earlier, what's very interesting is the amount of startup activities going on in the UK, and particularly in London. In fact, it's almost more than the sum of the next 6 or 7 countries, which is quite amazing. In terms of population, like obviously the larger countries, you'd expect more activity to be going on. But I suppose what's interesting is when you look at countries by population, you see companies like Switzerland and Sweden and Finland sort of coming to the fore, which is interesting. In terms of takeaway messages from the event, and you can download this report and you can read it, I suppose I just want to take you quickly through what the group said, and it would be interesting to hear whether or not you agree with these sentiments or not. So the sort of consensus in the room was that the strategy that the Commission is producing needs to be based on a sort of an EU-wide approach rather than something that's going on in a country-by-country basis. And you'd have heard Khalil Rouhani making this point earlier on, and you've heard about the Clare Initiative, for example. There's lots of things going on with this sense. And I suppose when we asked the group who attended the workshop what the next step should be, the sense was that we should be creating sort of regional clusters that were networked together, and this is consistent with what we saw in the communication that came out then in April. And I would like to think that some of the things that the EurAI members contributed at this workshop would have had an influence on that. So there was a focus on, so there was a sense that that the AI community should be sort of counteracting this sort of negative media characterization of killer robots and, dystopian futures and so on. These are important things, but we should be looking at realistic scenarios and try to document those and try to characterize those. And I suppose, things like there was broad consensus from the meeting that one of the real advantages that Europe has is its very strong academic landscape and its very strong track record. And I suppose while the Commission would have the view that the AI world in Europe is too fragmented, and I suppose as EurAI we would often think of AI as our association, but of course EU Robotics is a major part of this, and there are a number of other associations, BDVA. So when the Commission looks at the landscape of AI, they look at it very broadly, more broadly than we as EurAI members might actually think of the community. So that's something interesting, and I suppose it was noted that the academic community itself is probably the community that tries to integrate across Europe, which is interesting. There was a concern, again, voiced by many people. I suppose two things: this sort of not brain drain necessarily, but this sort of tendency that European researchers are doing great things in China and the US, but not tending to do them here in Europe, was very much a message that came out of that workshop. As well as things like challenges around access to open data and so on, which obviously the BDVA is heavily involved in. So in terms of Max Tegmark, he's talked today, was talking about the ban on lethal autonomous weapon systems. And again, what was interesting about this workshop is that very, very strongly, almost unanimously, there was the view that AI should not be used for lethal autonomous weapon systems, and so there was considerable support not only from the EurAI member organizations that were member associations, but also from the governmental representatives and industry representatives, which was interesting. And I suppose there was a sense that we should really be developing and focusing on AI as something for that we're designing, in some sense, the economy of the future and the world of the future for future generations. So in terms of next steps, the sense from that meeting was that there should be, obviously, I suppose the business people were very interested in entrepreneurship and hackathons and all this sort of stuff. The concept of a CERN for AI was certainly mentioned, and this idea of a distributed AI network of high-end centers was something that was very much emphasized. There was a sense that European governments should be working together much more aggressively in terms of AI. And in April, in fact, on Digital Day, the member states, well, most of the member states, and I believe all of them at this point, have signed a cooperation agreement on artificial intelligence. So if you don't know this, your government has already signed up to an agreement that commits them to spending more money on artificial intelligence research. So if you haven't got a copy, or you can't find a copy of this agreement, send me an email and I'll send you a copy of that statement with the signature of your local minister who said they were going to do this. So hold them to that. And I suppose there was significant interest in the idea of infrastructure around integrated data and so on for Europe. Incentivizing collaboration was a big issue. Obviously, the whole training piece, education, summer schools, we should be doing more of that, and there should be more funding for it. And I suppose outside of the academic community, there's also the question of how do we reskill and upskill people who are in careers today but want to learn something about AI. So I think from my point of view, it's kind of refreshing that most of the things I would have expected people to say, people were saying. There was a few points in here that were new, but I would be very interested in hearing, you know, over the next number of weeks, what your view is of this. This is all on the AI Alliance portal, so you pick it up there and you can comment on it as much as you wish. Basically, more money. People were strongly supporting that. I suppose significant. There was a lot of interest in people studying sort of scientifically how that integration between society and AI should work, and what the sort of societal impacts of AI should work, what kind of social contracts we should be having, and you know, an idea to build stronger relationships between industry, SMEs, and so on. So all good stuff, I think. So that's basically a summary. So if you want to find this, if you Googled the European Artificial Intelligence Landscape, you'll find that page. And that report is there that you can download. It's pretty short. It's just essentially a recording in text of some discussions and debates and summaries from each of the member states. Thank you. I'm going to hand you back to Cécile, who's going to. Okay. Great. Thank you.
Thank you, Barry. And now we will have a presentation from the president of the Big Data Value Association. Okay, Laure Lebars will present you. Oh, yes, and you can use it. Thanks.
Good afternoon. It's quite almost good evening now. So I will. This presentation is pretty complete. I will just stop on a few slides that are important for us. So I'm the president of BDVA, but I'm also working for SAP Research. And this association is the private part of this partnership with the Commission as part of this Horizon 2020 program. So you will see also EU robotics. But here I want to give you a sense of what we do in general, but more specifically what are our view and our activities in AI and what we see for the future. So first, this is, I will not go on each point, but this is an overview of the mission of the association. So of course, one of the biggest one is to develop the ecosystem. So here we speak about large and industry and SMEs, but also research, academics, and all kind also of association who have to say something on the data and on the value on those data. Of course, we cover things like standards, ethical, societal aspect, skills, and knowledge is very important. I mean, everybody knows that we need more and more of those data scientists. And all in all, I mean, innovation is certainly one important part. Just quickly, so it's an association, as I said, European, non-for-profit. Roughly 40% of academic and research as a partners. A good half of industry, 20% of those being large industry, and a lot of SMEs. So just to give you a hint of where do we come from? So of course we have a good representation in West Europe. We try to do to have more and more in East Europe, but that's for historical reasons. So I mentioned the skills, the legal aspect. Of course, we touch also the technology, so all the different aspects of technologies, including AI. Application as well. This is the difficulty of this association. We kind of cover all the vertical, the horizontal, etc. But more or less all industries are represented in this association. I'm talking about domains, application. Also, when we talk about technology industry, software, hardware aspect are represented. So it gives us a good we cover more or less all aspects of this, and we can develop this such a strategic research and innovation agenda, which you can read on site. I will not go through it. Here it's another view, so way to represent the interaction, so what we do inside BDVA, so we have different task forces or working group. So on the left, bottom left, for example, you see different data technologies, so from a technical point of view. On top, in verticals, it's a few examples of the industry we are mentioning. And external, between quotes, you see the collaboration we may have. So specifically on artificial intelligence and decision making, we collaborate with different PPPs, so EU robotics being one of this. But I mean, this is much more than just this collaboration. Here it's, we'll not go through it, but it's another view of what we do internally and different task forces. I go through it. So here it's, yeah, another aspect, so same way you have on top the different domains. It doesn't mean that every domain is here represented. What I wanted to point out is that we talk about open data, of course, but also personal data and also private data. Private meaning industry data. So it's the B2B, where, as Cécile mentioned earlier, Europe is pretty strong in this aspect. So it's we should not forget those. So we try to we have all those different interests inside the association. We try to at least come to a common view of maybe not interest, but at least exchange on those aspects. And okay, we don't have a fit for all, but at least we exchange on this and we see the pros and cons and the challenges from the different aspects. Research data, of course, I mentioned it earlier, but that's important for us as well. Yeah, okay, that's another view. What I wanted, yeah, it's, the order may not be the one I wanted, but this just a quick overview of, there is a PPP, it's part of this collaboration, and we have today 32 projects. There will be another 15 or so announced in 2 weeks from now. We'll start in January. And there is a CSA I mean, trying to coordinate some of those projects. And here we talk about technical projects as well as large-scale pilots. And as of today, we have bioeconomy, transport, mobility and logistics, healthcare, and smart manufacturing. This is the 4 that are running today. We will have more later on, but just to give you a span of what we cover here. Here is just a quick overview. I mean, beside this, pilot or large-scale project I wanted to phrase, from the beginning, BDVA started with this concept of innovation space. So back in 2014, when we set up the association, the idea was it's not just only a physical platform to put data and work on it. It is this, but not only. It was really to create an ecosystem where SME get access to technology, exchange on different aspects, not only legal or societal, but also business models, for example, etc. So we already have several iSpaces were represented at BDVA, so Smart Data Innovation Lab in Germany, Terra Lab in France, IJCAI in Italy, etc. I don't want to forget any. And each of this innovation space may not cover all aspects. We may have, so SDIL, for example, is very strong on research, on data. We may have others who are more working on specific application, etc. But the intent of all of this is really to create this ecosystem, give access to SMEs. So that's important. So this, we still work on this. It was, I mean, some of those projects are kind of reflecting this concept. The Digital Innovation Hub is definitely something that goes well together. In iSpace, we concentrate on the data, but I mean, it goes together. It's not antinomic. okay, so that's just a list of those. So that's the criteria. I will pass this. I will pass this as well. I would like to go. Yeah, here it's just, I mean, before that it was the different aspect of the vision. Here I just want to point specifically on what we do in AI. So we are working on this. I mean, all partners are separately working on this anyway, but we produce several vision papers, position paper. We organize several workshops internally, I mean, among BDVA members, but also together with the other association, with the Commission. There will be more to come. Next one is September 19th in Brussels. We will have, so we have several workshops at different other events. I mean, we take the occasion of those. Same way we have the European Big Data Value Forum will be this. And by the way, the title of this, so European Big Data Value Forum is the event co-organized by BDVA and the Commission. And the title of this year is Data-Driven AI for the Future. So, you know, this is central for us. Last year was Trusted AI for Smart Industry. So we are still in the same topic. So this is definitely really important for us. And of course, when you talk about Data Innovation Hub, we are here. I mean, we see how is it related, etc. Of course, I mean, I should have started with that, but we do AI, we talk a lot about AI today because we have the data and we have the power of the computer. So it's not, it goes together. I mean, this, we don't do data, big data for the sake of doing big data. Yeah, and of course, all those technical challenges that appear here are also discussed. This is other type of activities. So of course we have also collaboration with HPC, and we came back to the same point as well. Here it's another view of the different collaboration we have, but I don't have to go through it. And I will finish with this. So I mentioned it, this European Big Data Value Forum. So I give you, I invite you to come to Vienna on November 12th to 14th. Will be plenty of keynote sessions and workshops. Will be more, you know, really practical, and several will cover definitely AI. Thank you.
Thank you, Laure. And last but not least, our PPP on robotics. And this is a bit where we started with a robotics activity where we want to have more intelligent robots, but we need robots. So, Bernd, is it the first? No, it must be the last one. So.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everybody, and thanks for staying, even if it's late in the evening, listening a little bit to robotics. Would like to start with a statement: robotics needs AI, and AI needs robotics. I think at the end of the small presentation, we will understand, and we hopefully agree. Giving you an insight about EU robotics. EISBL, it's an organization with a little bit more than 250 members all over Europe. The largest network of roboticists and business in Europe was the conjunction of the EURON and the EUROPE network from academia and industry, which means we have 50-50 academia and industry. We have more than 30 topic groups, grassroots talking shops covering a wide range of robotic related issue, including AI for sure, and a successful collaboration after a couple of years now, after a couple of years in training between academia and industry. Together with the European Commission, we are in the private part of the PPP Spark responsible for the 700 million funding from the EU plus additional 2.1 billion from industry. I think you already saw these numbers in a presentation before, but the outcome of Spark are two important documents. It's the strategic research agenda and the multi-annual roadmap, which you could download, and it gives you an idea what our strategy is to make Europe a pretty strong place for robotics, and how the roadmap should look like. Talking about AI, and that was a little bit our fear in the past, that always means, okay, it's a lot of software, it's a lot of big data, it's a lot of mathematical algorithms, but the question is, what happens if physics and mechatronics gets into the game? And the question I got from the commissioner a couple of years ago was, what's the European robotics standing for? And that's hard to answer. If you take a look on the US side, very often you get confronted with the statement, okay, US robotics, that's medical robotics, that's this famous Da Vinci surgery system. If you take a look on Japan, you get the humanoids, but the question was, what's Europe standing for? And we are in a lucky position that we have many robot manufacturers, especially in the area of service robotics. Giving you a number, we have a little bit more than 50 industrial robot manufacturers worldwide. We have 675 service robot manufacturers, and big surprise, 1/3 of these service robot companies are located in Europe, which means not everybody is sitting in the Bay Area. And from the startup scene, Europe is on the front position too. But giving an answer, we discussed a lot within our organization, and with the colleagues from the Commission, we agreed on 4 focus areas or priority application areas, which are agri-food, healthcare, infrastructure, and manufacturing. And these 4 are complex physical workplaces, which makes it very interesting for us in robotics, because if you take a look on the industrial side, for example, with the beginning of robotics, introducing them in automotive manufacturing, you have a very structured environment, and getting more and more into the small facilities with the entrepreneurs, into the startup companies, or on the medical side, into the home care, elderly care robotic stuff, you're getting from structured to unstructured environment, which is requires a high precision of the robots, dexterity, intelligence for sure, and it's an ongoing discussion on which ranking would you find intelligence. Is intelligence more important than safety? If the robot is directly dealing with humans, or is safety more important? I think that's a discussion which is interesting. Robustness and reliability, another topic. I think nobody wants to have a shutdown of a robot within a surgery, and from the automotive training center, everybody I think believes that it's a hard task to make the systems run. Talking about these applications, these technologies, we are ending up in an overlap between artificial intelligence, which is not only robotics, but on the other side, robotics is not only artificial intelligence. There is an overlap which we call physical AI, and I'm very happy about the presentation I heard this afternoon, getting to the social AI, human-based AI, giving us the hope that not everybody is only powering now into the algorithms, into the software, but also taking care about this collaboration of these machines, let's say, together with humans and solving these problems. For this we need motion with intelligence, getting supported from the AI community. We need cognitive mechatronics at the end of the day to get to successful and reliable products in many new areas. This means there is a logic behind the collaboration of robotics and AI. Robotics in these focus areas I just mentioned, like healthcare, agri-food, manufacturing, inspection, and maintenance, gives us a rich amount of data and physical data, which we could support to the community, which we could get into the AI on demand platform to feed the knowledge bases, to support the AI technologies, the development coming out of there. And the platform can connect the two areas, as I just mentioned, the physical AI at the interface between the two groups. The goal is that we are creating machines with physical intelligence that support and improve all aspects of human life, but as you can mention by yourself, we have to ensure that safety, ethical and legal constraints are never compromised, and I'm very happy about the statement I saw before about intelligent weapons, and I think that we agree 100% that we have to have self-regulation within our group to defend ourselves. The next steps which we would like to see is really to develop an AI partnership within the PPPs, delivering a joint strategic roadmap, and strategic roadmap in our case does not mean that we now want to override the whole work which is done. No, we want to add this physical aspect to the roadmap, and we want to have the same, developing on the same language if we are talking about these intelligent within our machines, and we want to engage with the Commission and continue this development with workshops. But I think that's something we already heard from the colleagues in the other presentations. Last but not least, I would like to invite you to the European Robotics Week. Europe is opening the doors again, like every last full week in November. The starting event this year takes place in Germany, in Augsburg. Last year we had it in Brussels, the year before in Amsterdam. We are pretty proud that Augsburg now gets a chance to invite people and to demonstrate what's possible in robotics. Normally we have more than 1,000 events with up to 50-60,000 people joining this, which means there's a huge interest, at least it looks like, in Europe on the topic of robotics. And once a year we have the European Robotics Forum, which the next one takes place in March 2019 in Bucharest. Perhaps and hopefully we will get a little bit more AI workshops and discussions like we had 2018 in Tampere, but it's a good chance to continue the collaboration within the different groups. Thanks a lot for listening.
Maybe, is that working? No?
Does it work?
Hello?
Yes.
Okay. Just a quick remark. I wanted to go quick and I forgot to mention something to make the link with Cécile's presentation. BDVA, for example, is active and has a representative, Noza Boujema, at this high-level expert group in AI, and we do continuously dialogue and exchange with them. So Noza Boujema is from INRIA. She's director of Data AI Institute. She's also an expert on OECD, etc. So there is this international dimension anyway on this aspect. Sorry.
So any questions?
Give you time to think of the question.
Funding and everything else?
Hello, I'm Ronny Johansson. I'm with the Swedish Defense Research Agency. I have a question for the Commission about these innovation hubs, regional innovation hubs. Are you expecting some kind of, what concrete effects are you expecting of supporting these innovation hubs? For instance, are you expecting regional universities to develop advanced courses in some certain subject? Or are you also expecting some pan-European migration of researchers?
Right. The focus of digital innovation hubs, it's not fostering research per se. It's to bring the technology to all potential users. But we rely on the investment made locally in the universities, in the research center, because we have to establish the link between the knowledge and the application. But what we do fund is the interconnection between the digital innovation hubs to help the complementarity between those. So now, if we want to target research, so we are going to have in the call in 2020 something more targeted to reinforcing research centers. So this is something we still need to elaborate a bit, and this is something we are also looking for inputs. So what should we do to reinforce existing research centers? So the focus being more on the research, how to strengthen our quality of research, how to bring an EU added value in helping them to collaborate, which new mechanism should we put in place to make that happening?
So already existing research centers?
Already existing research center. We could also, if there is a need, to create new ones. So this is also something to be discussed. So that's any good ideas to really keep Europe in the front are interesting, and we would consider.
I mean, we had a lot of activities, ongoing activities and planned activities in the near future. But I wonder whether you had a look to China, how they made it, how could you learn from them? Or for example, the National Japanese AI Conference had 2,500 participants, as much as this IJCAI here. I mean, can you learn from them? How can we proceed?
Yeah, and what they did in China is really work closely together, governments, I mean, it's much more government-driven and pushed, but bringing the different elements, the industry, the government, and the academia together. So the approach is quite different, but what we can learn from what exists is also really to bring what we have already, and we have a lot, and it's really to capitalize on all this, and we need to bring people together. And the problem is many of the results are there and left unexploited. So what can we do to make the bridge between, okay, all these results standing there and not used? So can we build on that? And can we also help the researchers so that when a new researcher comes, does not have to start from scratch again and can capitalize on previous results? So this is why we try to help in making these common resource and try to build this resource and bring things together. There is no magic solution, and if there is, if you have good ideas, so one of the big activity in the AI on demand platform will be to do community building as well. So you will have to interact with them and see how you can also help them to make it better and faster and more efficient.
Thank you. Hi, I have two questions. One of them I will ask you personally later. And the first question, I'm asking about the calls in European Commission. And I'm asking which of the calls, in which calls the Iranian professors could be the lead participant. And in those calls that the Iranian professors could be the lead, if being the lead from Iran or Europe make any difference for the acceptance of the project, because there are less proposals from Iran, if being lead from Iran would increase the acceptance rate of the proposal or no, or if my European partner being the lead.
Yeah, the program is open to all the countries, but we fund only Europeans, unless there is an exceptional, for instance, expertise which is not in Europe, and then there is an exception. But in the idea is, yeah, to be open, but fund the Europeans. So this is the principle of the. So did I answer correctly?
But also it's not possible for Iranian universities to lead.
That I don't think is the case. To lead, yeah, it's as a partner is possible, but to be checked. We never had the case in our calls, but from what I remember, it's not possible to lead. It's okay to participate, but not to lead. And actually, it would be also an advice to give. It's to join a group, because we fund consortia, to join a group which has already an experience in developing a proposal, because it's extremely demanding to develop a proposal. So as a first time in a project, it's better to join an existing group rather than trying to build from scratch. It's very difficult. Yeah.
Thank you, Patrick Florian from Helsinki. Professor O'Sullivan made a very strong point in the panel before the coffee break of funding basic research, and now I was listening to the Commission representative's presentation about the new instruments after 2020, and it was very much about exploitation. So could you maybe elaborate a little bit about how much extra money the Commission will put into basic research in AI?
Right. I made a point about this exploitation program because it's a new thing. So it's something we're trying to sell, to convince the people it's good to invest on, but it doesn't mean that we will stop doing the rest. So I insisted on the new thing, but we will continue definitely to fund basic research. The ERC will continue, and future and emerging technology will continue. So we don't want to stop that. We know how important is it. I cannot give you right now the increase of funding in that area. That I don't have this value, but it will come, and yeah, to be more specific in those, this will be elaborated over the year. By the end of this year, we will have more precise information. But the point is taken. Don't worry, we will continue doing research, basic research. Thank you.
Yes, hello, Rebecca Wagner from IJCAI-ECAI University. Do you have any suggestions for doing transdisciplinary research? Because a lot of the questions are cross-disciplinary. There's big data sets sitting in the humanities, for instance, where there's no computational power to process that data, but they would be extremely useful for AI. What's the best way to construct and submit a transdisciplinary project?
Yeah, you really have to look into the various calls, but there might be some which are helping in that.
There are some technical calls.
On those specific aspects, but in the robotics call we had quite a lot of multidisciplinary by essence, because robotics is also the science of integration, the different aspects. So we have covered life science, and in our call also on cognitive systems. We had a lot of different disciplines. So we recognize that it is important to have the multidisciplinary aspect. It's even part of the evaluation criteria. But yeah, check all the lists there, and there might be already some calls which you could fit on. Otherwise, go to the open call where you can also make the point that it is important because it's acknowledged by the expert, which are your counterpart, that the multidisciplinary aspect is so important. And we see also in your PPP this aspect of multidisciplinarity. So this is coming, and we have to continue pushing for that. This is where there is the value as well.